They say this is a big rich town, yeah, and I just come from the poet's pod. Bright light, city life, I gotta make it, this is where it goes down. Oh, I just happen to come up hot. Legal or illegal, baby, I gotta make it. Hey, what's up again, YouTube world? It's your girl, Dana Monet here for the last recap of season 3 of Power. It was the finale. I apologize that I didn't get my video up on Sunday, but I know a lot of people had issues with Comcast, so maybe today is the right day. And I felt like it was fitting, since it was the finale, that I go back to singing the intro again because it just seemed appropriate. So I'm actually going to get right into the review, and I'm going to discuss my thoughts and predictions for season 4 at the end. So here we go. All right, so we start off the episode with Greg waiting for Ruiz by there's a Statue of Liberty nearby. They like to show special you know, scenery and monuments and stuff, but obviously he didn't show because we all know Ruiz is dead. Greg gets a call about Ruiz's body being found, so he rushes and he uses those sirens and that unmarked cop car to his advantage, for real. So he rushes there. He tells the cops to fuck off. I'm trying to see this body. Really, what I'm trying to do is make sure he still got this recording device on him. And the cop says, you know, he should have been in witness protection. Greg is just like, you know, whatever. He wasn't, so tough shit. So Greg made sure he still had the wire, and he took it off of him, and he's like, okay, I'm done here. I don't need anything else. So we see Ghost watching from a distance, and he calls Angie, of course, to see if there are any pending indictment charges in regards to the Lobos murder. And she says no. And, you know, he's like, how do I know if I can trust you or whatever? Angie says that I'll protect you because it's in my own best interest, at least for now. So next we see Greg in his office calling the Federales in regards to a tip that was given to Sandoval about where Lobos was coming to New York to pick up his money. Remember last season, he gave some type of warehouse, but they were really at, you know, the Ritz-Carlton or whatever they were. But Sandoval alleges that he got a tip that they were at this warehouse. So after he calls to see if he can get information on that, he puts the wire, he starts with the wire and the little USB thing and puts it in the computer. But then Jerry walks in and is scolding him about the Ruiz death, saying that you're trying to do all of this stuff under the books. You're not supposed to do that under the table. We could be all fucked. I could get fucked. You know, like you doing this affects me too. And I think that that's what people don't realize on this show. Like, somebody does this and it affects like 5 other people. But hey, you know, that's power for you. So next we see Proctor and Ghost in his office and talking about what may or may not be on this tape. And Ghost basically says, for lack of a better word, you know, Tommy killed Ruiz, and that's probably on the tape. And Proctor calls him out in reference to trusting Angie about what she said about there not being any pending indictment charges. And Ghost says, you know, we're not together anymore. And Proctor says, you fucked that up too? Like, what is wrong with you? So Proctor said, you know, he can get the tape thrown out because it's completely illegal. But if the jury does hear that in open court, Tommy will eventually go to jail. So next we see Sax and Angie in the break room, and Sax is eating some like nasty looking wrap. And he tells Angie in, you know, fewer words than none, that Ruiz is dead. So next we see Karen Bassett and Ghost discussing the black tie event that they're about to have, and Milan is listening in. So we know that there weren't any bugs in the club. He just has super sensitive hearing and can hear everything, and his people can hear everything. So that's Milan, okay? So next we see Milan sharpening his knives, and it's like really serious. Like, do you really have to sharpen your knives? I heard it was like shh, shh, shh. Like he's about to go like, you know, like he's like Darth Vader or something. Like I was like, what in the world? He's about to chop somebody up. cook them and eat them. He's about to chop them up like onions. Not here for it. Milan tells Petrov, I think that's his right-hand man's name. Well, it used to be his right-hand man's name. To go play with the other little boys while he talks to Tommy. And Milan tells Tommy, we can't kill Ghost until the contracts for the Karen deal are signed. And, you know, Tommy is like, okay, well, once we kill Ghost, how does the deal still going to go through? And Milan is like, well, she likes Andre and may still want to work with him. And Milan says, you know, you're finding your true potential here, and Petrov is getting further away. And when it comes time to kill Ghost, I want you to pull the trigger. So deja vu in reference to what Lobos told Tommy. So next we see Ghost is breaking into Greg's apartment because clearly Ghost is like on a mission. He's like, what is on that tape? Oh my goodness, I mentioned whatever, so I have to get this goddamn tape. So I was just thinking to myself, Ghost wouldn't have had to do all of this if he would have just told Tommy that Ruiz was wearing a wire. Therefore, when Tommy killed him, he could have taken the wire off. Very simple. Or at least when they talked in the last episode at the very end, because Ghost was so concerned about, you know, where the body was, he could have told him then Ruiz was wearing a wire. Then maybe Tommy would have gone back and taken the wire off. I'm just saying this is the beginning. Well, not the beginning, but in this episode, this is the beginning of his ultimate ending being all his fault. So next we see, in other words, karma. So next we see Greg at his buddy's house, and he's like wearing this floral like 70s shirt. It looked like a trailer, but I don't think it was because they don't have trailers in New York, but whatever. So they're listening to that inadmissible tape of Ruiz. First he's talking to Milan, and then Greg hears Tommy's voice come into the picture. He's like, that's Tommy Egan, that's Egan. and you know, he talks to his friend about how he did everything under the table, and he's like, and Greg is like, well, you do the same thing. And, you know, the friend is like, well, we do it to stop terrorists from bombing like Central Park or whatever. So, but once Greg hears Tommy's name, he feels like he's getting there. So we switch back to Ghost in Greg's apartment, and he sees Angie's clothes there. He sees like a bra or something. He starts to get all in his feelings and stuff. We don't have time for that, Ghost. Get out of your feelings. You know she back there. Just like you back with, well, you're not really back with Tasha, but you did sleep with Tasha. And he sees all the pictures that, you know, Greg had on the wall in regards to the Lobos murder, all the evidence and everything. And he hears Angie come in, and he hides. And Angie's looking for Greg, and Ghost got close to getting caught, but he didn't. And I just have to say, I found it really strange that she just kind of went in there. Well, she said she called him and he didn't answer. So I guess that's the reason why she just went in there, checked to see if he was there, and then when he wasn't, she left. But I would think that if she's coming in there, that she's coming in there to stay. But what do I know? So then when he tries to leave back out the window, he drops his wrench, and that causes him to somehow put his fingerprints on the window. So that comes into play later. So next we see Greg back at his buddy's house, and he believes that based on this tape that Angie is the leak, and he has everything that he needs. He hears Ruiz being stabbed. He's like, Tommy killed him. And, you know, Greg gets really excited. He says, this is everything. This is everything. He's like crying, laughing at the same time. He's just like so full of joy. So his buddy says, you know, you can try to take this to court, but you're going to get roasted and end up sucking dick in prison with the rest of them. So, you know, Greg thinks that he can get one of them to flip. So moving right along to Ghost driving, talking to Dominique about the club. He's on his way to the club, but he gets pulled over by Greg. So Greg tries to be all rough and illegal, telling him to get out of the car and patting him down and stuff like that. And Greg says he knows everything. He's trying to get him to snitch on Angie. He says, you know, he has the most to lose and there's no real proof that you're Ghost. And Ghost says, because I'm not. And he says, if given the opportunity, Greg says this, if given the opportunity, I'm sure she'll burn your ass just like she did me. Ghost says Angie's not guilty of murder. Greg says, I wonder if she'll say the same about you. So after he lets Ghost go, and that was really telling because, you know, at the end of the day, Angie only cares about herself. Everybody only cares about themselves at the end of the day, except for maybe Tasha, because I think she cares about herself and the kids. But Greg calls Mike to meet him at his house. So Tommy and Ghost meet up. And, you know, Tommy's like, why you late? Ghost said, you know, I got pulled over, DWB, driving while black. Happens every day. At least I didn't get shot. It's so crazy that we have to say that right now, you know, rocking the hoodie. You know what I'm saying? Black Lives Matter. All right. Enough of that little PSA. So they say their little saying, you know, he was like, what happened? He was like, they ain't see shit. I ain't say shit. So it ain't shit. So Tommy says Milan is looking to kill you once you sign the papers with Karen. And said that she would still do the deal because she likes Dre. And, you know, Ghost is like, yeah, that's all true. It's so funny when they talk about murder and the fact that they themselves may get murdered. It's really like a casual thing, like, because it's just like people get murdered every day in their lives and on this show. So it's no big deal. So Tommy is like, you know, basically it has to happen at the club. And he's like, it's going to be so many people there. It's the black tie event. And Tommy is just like, you got to figure out how to do it because we won't get a better shot. So you don't have a choice, brother. Figure it out. So next we see Mike come to Greg's house where Greg tells him he is sure that Angie is the leak. And he's telling Mike the story when his phone rings. And it's the Federales. And at first he was about to hang up, but then they was like, hold up. We got some valuable information for you. Don't hang up that phone. Who say, they never made a tip to a Sandoval. They don't know who he is. So he hangs up the phone and Greg completely shifts gears immediately. And he tries to play it off by getting them some beers. And then Greg is going through different things in his mind, thinking back to the meeting that they had when, you know, he was talking about, when Mike was talking about them, you know, going to the warehouse to get Lobos and the distributor. And he starts to unravel, you know, the pieces of the puzzle, basically. And Mike knows that he's on to him. And he asks him, who's that on the phone? And Greg says straight up, it was the Federales. And they've never heard of you. I'm like, who are you? You know, and Mike said, you know, they're disorganized. Don't listen to them. And Greg says, I saw you coming out of Hugo's house. Mike said he was trying to solve the murder. And Greg said, or you were trying to cover your tracks. And Mike said, he threatened my family. I had no choice. Greg says, we always have a choice. And then Mike starts talking about all of the dirty and corrupt things that Angie did and how, you know, she should already be in prison, which, you know, she should be anyway, and suggests devising a plan to frame her. So Mike says, you know, we could get around the admissibility problem. And, you know, I mean, obviously, you know about me, so let's just go in on her. I know you got to ask around. Let's just do it. And Greg says, I know she's dirty, but on this one, she's clean. And then dumbass Greg is like, I gotta take you in, Mike, trying to do it all officially, like without no backup, thinking that Mike wasn't prepared for this. So Mike pulls out a gun on Greg and like, motherfucker, it is not gonna be that easy or that simple. So Greg, he tries to talk him down, talking about you're a good guy or whatever, yada, yada, yada. But Mike shoots him in the neck. And it's like all this blood gushing out of his neck. And then shoots him in the hand because Greg was trying to block it or whatever. And Mike almost shot him like he's never shot anybody in his life. Like, I feel like everybody, like, has been trained when they work in that field to shoot. And he just really seemed like it was like a reactionary thing. Like, you know, I don't know. Maybe he hasn't really actually shot somebody. Maybe only, you know, in target practice. But, you know, that's just what I observed. So after Greg is lying there dead, whatever, Mike puts his gloves on and takes the burner phone out of his pocket. Make sure he wipes it off his leg so there's none of his fingerprints there, and leaves the burner phone in a drawer at Greg's house. And make sure he takes the beer because that's evidence, this DNA, right? Because if they see there were 2 beers there, you know, they were going to get suspicious. And I called Greg's death Actually, from the very beginning of the season, like before the season started, I was like, Greg is going to die because he is just going to get too close to something and somebody's going to kill him. And then last week, if you saw my recap, I called Greg dying because he was going to figure out that Mike was the leak and Mike was going to shoot him. So, yay me. Okay. I feel so happy because a lot of people didn't know that Mike was going to be the one to shoot him. I'm sure that other people did, but I feel happy that I figured something out. So don't rain on my parade. Anyway, next we go to the cops are now at the scene of Greg's death. And we see them put the burner phone into the little evidence bag. And Saxe is outside of Greg's door. And then Angie comes and she sees that they're rolling him out on a stretcher. And she sees that he's dead. And she's like, I don't understand. What happened to Greg? I don't understand. Like, Angie, he's dead. Like, do you understand that he's dead? I mean, you know, I'm going to give it to her. She's in shock. She didn't know what to say. Whatever. I don't know. I probably would have just been like, ah, you know, whatever. I'm not going to, you know, say nothing about the way that she decided to grieve in that moment. Moving right along to Kanan talking to Tariq about how to get a girl, something about this is how you get some booty or whatever the case may be. Anyway, Tariq asks him about his hand again, and, you know, Kanan just says it was a long story, so he still doesn't answer the question. That's the only thing that you're suspicious about, Tariq, is his hand. Anyway, Tariq says then that he needs to go to school, but Kanan wants him to, you know, take something to Ray Ray or whatever. And I'm like, you skipping school and stuff. You just trying to be this little badass, and you're really not. Like, that is not your flavor. Like, you're basically another Sean. Like, not for the streets, like, not about this life, just set up. Like, you weren't built for this. So next we see Tasha and Ghost in their apartment, and she's asking Ghost, why you come in so late? Went to go see Angela. Ghost said, I'm skipping some parts, but Ghost said that Tommy killed Ruiz. And Tasha said, did he tell you how he found out? Because remember, last episode, Tasha called Tommy to let him know about his plan, and it involved Ruiz. And Tommy said, no, Ruiz told him before he died. And he goes on to say, you know, I thought we were on better terms after I helped him with Holly. And then that makes Tasha suspicious. And she asks Ghost, like, what do you mean helping him with Holly? So then he tried to play it off and starts talking to Raina about her tap shoes or something like that. So he just completely dismisses it. And then Tasha texts Tommy something about, you need to come over, we need to talk, or something along those lines. So next we see Tommy meeting up with Petrov, and he has a gun to his head. And Tommy basically wants to team up with him to take Milan out. And he knows that he doesn't like Milan very much. He doesn't appreciate him because, you know, now Tommy's the number 2 instead of him being a number 2. And Tommy says, I got a plan that'll make us both rich and happy. But I got to trust you, and you got to trust me. Are you down? So then we see the makings of Tommy's plan right there. So, you know, he got to keep some of Milan's minions on the payroll, right? So next we see Angie at work, and she gets a text from Jamie saying, I need to see you. And then MJ comes in, and the whole task force is in there to discuss the passing of Greg Knox. And they said that the burner phone that was found on Lobos, or the burner phone rather, that pinged the cell tower that contacted Lobos, was at his house. So they're basically saying that Greg was the lead. And Angie and Saxe are like, I don't believe it. And then Mike, you know, just to play along, he says, I don't believe that either, you know, because he has a really convincing way about him, because nobody suspects him at all. It wasn't until Greg connected the dots that they even suspected him. So MJ basically says that the case is closed. You know, we don't have to prosecute him because he's dead. You know, and as everybody's walking out, MJ says that wasn't the only piece of evidence that was left. We found a bra, bracelet, a dress there. And she was like, y'all got back together. And Angie was like, briefly. And they mentioned something earlier, something about the window being open. And Angie said, you know, he never leaves his window open. And, you know, there was no forced entry. So she texts Jamie back saying, "Where are you now?" So next we see Tommy coming into Tasha's house, and Tasha confronts Tommy about killing Ruiz. And Tommy says, "I got a plan to get us all out from under Milan." And Tasha's like, "Man, you sound just like Ghost. Always got a plan." And Tommy says, "You got to trust me." And Tasha said, "Ghost may be a lying, sometimey motherfucker, but he's still the father of my kids. And I need to protect him even from himself." And Tommy says, "I'm protecting him too. I always do." And Tasha says, "You know, Ghost said something to me about helping you with Holly." And Tommy just goes stark white and just says, "Just stick to the plan." And he just gets into the elevator with like this sinister look in his eyes. And you can tell that Tasha is going to find out soon. I mean, we won't know until next season, but next season actually might be a couple hours from now, a couple hours from the end of the episode. So next we see Angie and Ghost meeting at where they had their first date. I think it was in the first episode or whatever. And she's like, "Oh, why do we have to meet here of all places?" And she asks him, "What did he do last night?" Ghost tries to fight her on it. I was like, I thought we weren't supposed to ask each other these questions. But then he says he went to work at Truth. And then he asks, "Where were you with Greg?" And she said, "I didn't see Greg last night." Well, Ghost says, "I did." And her eyes go like, "What?" And he said he pulled me over, accusing me of killing Lobos. I told him he has no proof. And I told him you were innocent. You know, basically, you know, I'm covering your ass. So do you believe me? And she said, "I don't know what to believe." And Ghost said, "I wanted to protect you from Greg. I'd do anything to protect you." And that really makes her really suspicious. And she says, "I only came here because they found who the leak was and the case is closed and I'm in the clear. But we're done." And then Ghost soft ass says, "But I still love you and you still love me." And she says goodbye and walks out. I told y'all she despised this nigga. I told y'all last episode. Like, she's not here for Ghost no more. She's not. He's holding on to this fantasy. But it's also because he can't control her anymore. I think that bothers him even more. So next we see Tariq taking the brown paper bag over to Ray Ray. So they had to choose the most ghetto ass name, Ray Ray. And he tries to give it to him all out in the open. Ray Ray's like, "Nah, man, that's not how we do business. Who are you?" Like, even I know not to just do something right in the open and you trying to do a transaction of that sort. So they go in the alleyway and we find out there were guns in the bag. And he tells him to put his hands up. And at first I thought he was going to kill him. I thought he was going to shoot him. But then, you know, he handcuffed him. I'm like, oh, like he's like undercover or something like that. So then he takes him in the car. And who is it that we see in the car? Jukebox. So Jukebox returns. So, you know, she tells Tariq, "Oh, you have these things that's going to keep you in juvie until your 18th birthday. And she says, you know, think about all the trouble you're going to get into with your parents and school and everything like that. And she wants him to snitch. And she's like, "I'm going to give you one last chance." And then she says, "We're going in." And then Kanan gets in the car. And she was like, you know, he was able to hold his own. You know, he a little G. I was like, give Tariq 5 more seconds. Let that car have pulled off. Let her have put that car in drive. He would have squealed like a baby. So the fact that y'all thought he was a G off of that like little 30 seconds, nah. He would have sang like a canary. Please. Anyway, so next we see Angie goes back to Greg's apartment. And she's looking around, and because she was thinking about that window, she decides to pull the fingerprints off the outside of the window, which I am completely shocked that the cops who were there at the crime scene earlier that day didn't do. Like, you're supposed to take fingerprints off of everything. The door, the table, the windows. Like, how did they, like, miss that part or whatever? They bad detectives or whatever. Cops. So next, we see Angie in her office, and she put the fingerprint information in the database at work and contemplating pushing the button. And then Sax comes in And they start talking about Greg, and then Saxe kind of tries to like make a pass towards Angie. I know that's like so old school, that's like real 1950s, but he kind of like sort of flirts with her, and she's like, no, not that into you, sorry, Saxe. Ew. So she finally, after he leaves, she pushes enter, and it's like loading and stuff like that, but it goes to the next scene before we can ever see the results to validate. So next we see Tariq in Kanan's place goofing with Ray Ray. That's what I'm going to call him if that's not his real name, whatever. He Ray Ray. He says he doesn't want to go back home. I just want to get my own shit. Like, after how many days have he been hanging out with Kanan? 2 weeks, 5 days, whatever. All of a sudden, this little boy want to be out on the street. Like, what? Anyway, so Jukebox asks how much you think your dad is worth. And he says, I don't know, a lot. And they like, what, you got butlers at your door? And he's like, I don't have a door, I have an elevator. And they are like, thinking in their mind, ka-ching, ka-ching. He got an elevator. So Jukebox wants to make sure Kanan is not getting too attached, which I kind of think he is. Like, does Kanan like kind of sort of like this much have a little bit of a heart? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But anyway. So she was like, you never told me Ghost was balling, like not just drug money, but nightclub money. And she asks Kanan what he plans to do with him. And Kanan said something about he's going to use him to rob his rich friend's parents, which is kind of corny, but whatever. He do what he got to do to get money. And he'd be like, that's the hustle. And Jukebox says he is the hustle. You are still planning on killing him, right? And, you know, when he was like, yeah. And Jukebox is like, you got to hit Ghost twice. Hit him in the pocket and hit him in his heart. So, yeah. All right. So now we're at the black tie event at Truth. And Ghost is talking to Karen and her dad. And then we see Dre sneak his boys from the hood in there. And I'm thinking, what are they about to do? They about to kind of like rob the place? Like, what's going on? Like what we saw back in like episode 2 or whatever. And, you know, Dre warns them it's a lot of rich white people in here. Don't do nothing stupid because they not afraid to call 911, and don't get all jumpy. And everybody looks at the dude with the glasses because apparently he'd be the one. So I thought that was kind of funny. So they're in, and we see Ghost schmoozing with the guest, one of the ball players. It was kind of cute. And then we see Karen's dad offer him the deal. And then he signs it. Milan sees that he signed it, and Tasha and Tatiana exchange words. And then Milan approaches Ghost and says, we need to talk now that the papers are signed. And that's a really nice suit that you have on for your last night on Earth. And he says, I have you now, Ghost. And then Ghost says, no, I have you. And then we see Dre's peeps got guns on all Milan's people. And then we see Tasha has a gun on Tatiana. She said, like something like, don't go nowhere, bitch, or something like that. Or don't even try it, bitch, or something like that. And I was like, still not going to see Tasha shoot nobody. For real. We got close. She pulled a gun out on somebody. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Got to wait till next season, though. So they get to the, like, I guess downstairs in the club, and Tommy says it's about time. So they take him to the warehouse, and Ghost and Tommy, well, first Milan starts talking shit, and then he just standing there. And then Ghost and Tommy exchange shots. It was 3 shots. Pow, pow, pow. And then Milan just goes out like a G, like this. And I have to say, I didn't think that he was going to die. I thought he was going to go into season 4. So good for y'all for tricking me and figuring it out. But they got other problems. So that's good. Milan is dead. We don't got to worry about him eating nobody no more. Great. Excellent. So Ghost and Tommy worked together and killed another psychopath. Well, last time they worked together and then they didn't work together. This time they seamlessly worked together. And Ghost says, you know, you better watch your back. And Tommy says, you too, motherfucker. And then Petrov comes in and says, you know, everyone is cool now, drinking beer, Dre is good or whatever. And Tommy still wants to sell the drugs in Ghost's club. And Petrov is like, have you told him that? And Tommy said no, but he's not going to have a choice. So I'm thinking, is Tommy like completely against Ghost at this point? Like they're not cool or whatever. So I'm trying to, you know, figure that out. I think that he's like, fuck Ghost at this point. Like he tried, like, you know, they'll come back together, but I think, you know, it's like, eh. Okay, so next we see Tasha gets home and sees Raina still up, and she asks her, you know, where's Tariq? Where's your brother at? And she says, oh, he's with his new friend Slim. And Tasha's like, who the fuck is Slim? And Raina's like, you know, he's a friend of Dre, and he was a friend of Sean, and he knew Dad and Uncle Tommy when they were younger. And Tasha is like, oh my God. Like, I think her heart sank when she heard those things, and I know that she knew exactly who it was. So she says, I'm about to call him. Marina said, I already called him. It's not going to work. And she was like, he better answer when I call him. So now we switch back to Tariq at Kanan's house, and he ignores his mom's call, but does say to Ray Ray, my mom is calling me. I should probably go. And he is like fucked up over this lean. He has been sipping that lean. This poor boy. And then we see Kanan and Tariq take a picture and send it to his mom. And she gets the text and she freaks out. And Raina says, you know, she has to call her father. She says, Raina, go to bed. I have to call your father or whatever. So she is just like distraught. And then we go back to the club. And Karen's father is offering him a trip to Dubai next week on the private jet. So everything is looking good for Ghost in this moment. And then he sees Angie like he did in the pilot in his club. And he goes up to her and he kisses her ever so softly. And she lets him because she knows what she's about to do to him. And he says, I never meant to hurt you. And she says, now we can be together. And she said, we can't be together. And then she arrests him for the murder of Greg Knox. She says, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used. I don't know the right, everything. But she basically gives him his Miranda rights. But in the middle of that, she said, I loved you. And then she continues on with her Miranda rights. And Jerry walks in and kind of helps her to, you know, handcuff him. And I'm just looking at kind of like the people in the background. And they just steady partying and everything like that while he's getting locked up. Like one guy was looking like, hey, is that the owner getting locked up? And he's like, yeah, like they just still steady partying, like nobody even cares. So she basically walks him out of his own club in handcuffs, and there's cameras flashing. It's basically like the paparazzi, and it's like the worst way to go out. And Karen's father is over it. Like, it's like he switches so quickly, because whenever Ghost is doing right, he's here for it. But when Ghost fucks up, he's like, psh, fuck him. So I basically wrote karma. And I say it like this. At first I was like, well, Angie is the prosecutor first. You know, she had to do her, you know, due diligence. But because she believes that he killed Greg. And she wouldn't have gotten that same satisfaction if she would have arrested him for killing Lobos or for the drug charges. So I actually realized that she's a woman first. The fact that he killed she believes that he killed someone that she cared about. So she's a woman first before a prosecutor. And Ghost says, I can't believe you do this to me. And Angie says, believe it. It's the right decision. So she basically got him back with his own words. And he is just completely stunned because he never thought in a million years that Angie would actually send him to jail, and she did it. And there were two thoughts that were going through my mind when that happened. One was, man, fuck Angie. How could she do that? And then the other one was like, yes, Angie, yes, arrest him. Because the reason why I was like, fuck Angie at first is because all the crimes that he actually did, and he got away with him. And you know, Ghost wouldn't really be messy and kill somebody and really, you know, leave any trace of it. They still couldn't prove that he actually killed Lobos. But a crime that he didn't actually commit because his fingerprints were there, because he was being sloppy, he's getting framed for. You know what I'm saying? So that was the end of the episode. So I was just like, oh my gosh. So now he's in jail. So let me tell you my thoughts. Okay, I think I give this season finale about an 8. It probably would have gotten a 10 if it would have been like maybe an extra 10 or 15 minutes Tasha would have figured out where Tariq was and busted a cap in all of their asses and grabbed her son. And then maybe got a call from Ghost like, I'm in jail. And then that could have been good with that, because I hate the idea of going into the next season with one, knowing that Kanan is still alive and he was supposed to die this season. Like, 50 Cent, you getting money. You executive produced the show. You don't need to act in the show too. Like, I need Kanan to die next season. Like, I can't. Like, if he survives season 4, like, I can't. Like, he has to die next season. Like, I don't even know. So I hope that Tariq pulls through. I mean, he's not dead yet. He's just like knocked out off of that lean. So I'm hoping that Tasha becomes Superwoman. Next season is going to be the season of Tasha. I really feel like that. I feel like this season was kind of all about Tommy and his journey. And now he is the big kingpin. He's the connect now. You know, he's the Lobos. He's the Milan. So he calls the shots. And I think that next season is going to focus on Tasha, because she's going to kind of be all alone. Like, Ghost is in jail. We don't know when he's going to get out, or if he's going to get out during the season. And she's going to have to deal with the kids and getting Tariq out on her own. So that's going to be interesting to see how she figures it out. She still hasn't found out about Holly. We don't know where Lakeisha is. I still don't think Lakeisha is dead. Some of y'all think that Milan ate her a long time ago. Look. If you don't see somebody get killed on this show, then they are not dead. This is Power. It's murder happening all the time. So if somebody dies, we're going to see them being killed. So Lakeisha is not dead. She's going to pop up next season on episode 3. Mark my words. And then also next season it's going to pick up right where it left off, because we can't go ahead like 3 months or nothing like that, because we have to know what happens with Tariq. And if they hold this out and then he still dies the beginning of next season, I'm going to be pissed off. I'm going to be like, if y'all were going to kill the little boy, just do it now. And I don't know. Like, I just didn't like anything about that whole last scene with Tariq. It's like him drugged out, jukebox there, Ray Kanan. It just seemed like they was about to do some real foul shit to him. And I just wasn't feeling like that. It made me uneasy. It made me uncomfortable. I just didn't like it. It was just like real, it's like pedophile-y, and just like, it just didn't sit well with me. I obviously do believe that Ghost is going to get out of jail. And Proctor is going to be a major component in that. We're going to see how Dre does running a nightclub, see if what he learned in the last couple of months has served him well. Angie's going to go in prosecutor mode and be trying to talk to Ghost while he's in jail about this and that and the third, and he'll be looking at her side eye like, I almost feel like Mike is going to completely get away with being Lobos's leak. I mean, and now, like, he doesn't, Lobos is dead, so, you know, it's not like he really has to do anything dirty anymore. But I think it would be nice for somebody to find out that Mike was in fact the leak and he killed Greg. And I actually think that Angie might find out that he did kill Greg and not tell anybody, because that's that foul shit that she do, so that Ghost can stay in jail. Like, wouldn't she do something like that now that she's been, I think she's really like vindictive now. Like, she really wants to get him back. Essentially just for breaking up with her. I just don't think that this same thing would have happened if he never broke up with her. It's kind of petty. Actually, I do believe that. But I don't know, like, Ghost may get beat up real bad in jail, and she may go visit him in the infirmary and confess her dying love. But when Ghost finds out what happened with Tariq, he is going to flip and be like, Kanan, and he can't do anything because they weren't friggin' paying attention to the goddamn boy beforehand. Like, seriously, that last scene was like 2 episodes too late. It should have happened in like episode 8. Oh my goodness. I don't know what's going to happen next season. I'm mad that I have to wait an entire year. But it's plenty of fall shows on that I can watch, and be sure to watch my reviews of The Voice if you're into that. I'm reviewing The Voice, and I'm watching a lot of these fall shows, but I'm not recapping them because it has been a chore and a half to recap Power, and I can't do scripted shows, let alone multiples at once. I know a lot of people do them. Big ups to all of y'all that do that. I can't handle it. You know what I mean? I did it with power, and now I'm done. So we out. It's a big, rich town. So see you next season, 2017. Peace.